One.
Welcome to Follow the Action. This is the fastest growing podcast in the freaking universe. We've been downloaded over 2,000 cities, over 60 countries in all 50 states because we don't have guys who play experts on television. We have sports betting giants. We have the legends of the industry, the guys that move the lines, the guys that bet the big money. We have them here. It's to Follow the Action. It's the reason for our success. You can follow us on YouTube, follow us on our Twitter, give out all kinds of extra free picks, all kinds of advice and extras on our YouTube channel, Facebook, and Instagram. We have the legend himself, the Philly Godfather, fighting out of the city of brotherly love, the best combat sports handicapper in the world. He's a birthday boy this week, Mr. Joey Oddessa, and been called the future of sports betting, Mr. Matt Maltepes of the College Kids. And we got a special today. The 8 Ball is with us. And I understand we may have a legend that we've been trying to get on the show for some time. He's going to join us later, from what I understand. From what I understand, he's good friends with the Philly Godfather. Philly Godfather, give us a little insight in this legend without giving it away, maybe.
It's pretty hard. I mean, I have so much respect for the man. He's taught me so much over the years. He's like me. He looks at all the quantitative factors surrounding these matchups, whether it's football, basketball, you name it, baseball. But it's the qualitative stuff that he looks at, the stuff that he picks apart, the little things, the little nuances of the game, the ebbs and flows that really set him apart. And he's taught me so much when it comes to that.
Well, Philly Godfather, let's get started right off with a little NFL, which you have owned this year. Absolutely owned, just like you did last year. Followed up a 64.7% season. That's legendary. Doing it again this year. You got some NFL picks for us today?
Yeah, real quick. I mean, after getting blown out 45-0 last week, I don't know how the odds makers opened up the Chargers as 1-point favorites at home against the Atlanta Falcons. This Chargers team, I mean, who they beat this year? They beat the Bengals, they beat the Jets, they beat the Jags, and they had no business beating the Bengals the first week of the season. This is a team that quit on everyone. People are talking about Anthony Lynn being the worst coach in football. I kind of agree with that. And now they're going up against a 4-8 Falcons team that actually has a plus 8-point differential and has lost 5 games this year by 1 score or less. The line moved from Falcons +1. Now I think they're laying 2.5 on the road. I still like the Falcons here. I think they get it done. I think they still got a lot of fight left in them. And this Chargers team might be one of the worst in football. I think they quit on their coach. I think the coach is about to get fired, and I can't invest no money in a team like that in that type of situation. Next up, Green Bay Packers. Everyone's going to be betting them this week. Everyone's going to be tying them into teasers, into exotic bets, parlays. Now, I don't think they're going to lose the game, but if Swift plays, if Galladay plays, if some key components for Detroit comes back, which I think they are, I mean, this is a Lions team that's rejuvenated after a miracle win against the Bears last week that cost me a ton of money. I lost a ton of money on that game, but it's all right. The only thing that matters in the sports betting business is what you do next. And I think the Lions are looking to play spoiler here to finish the season. Like I said, they're getting some major firepower back on the offensive side of the ball. I'm expecting a big game by Matthew Stafford versus this Packers defense that ranks only 1 spot better than the Raiders pass defense and the opponent yards per pass attempt metric this year. So I'm expecting some points in this one. Like I said, everybody and their mother's going to be betting the Packers here this week. Other than the Saints, they're probably the best team in the NFC this year. Packers have a plus 80-point differential on the season. But I think if Detroit gets healthy, gets all their guys back, like I said, if they all play, I think taking 7.5 on the home dog here should be able to help you cash a ticket.
You rarely lose, and when you do, it's news. But also is news about how bad the Chicago Bears coaching was, which is something you just can't factor into. I don't know how you could ever handicap something like that happened this past Sunday. That's some of the worst coaching I've ever seen, Philly Godfather.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really handicap the turnover differential. If you could, you'd be the richest man on the planet. But that play calling at the end of the game, when they got the ball, I mean, they're winning by 10 points the whole game. Now they got the ball at their own 20. There's less than 2 minutes left. I mean, why are you passing the ball when one of your offensive linemen is hurt and they got a backup in there and they just rush the quarterback? They cause a fumble, cause a turnover. Detroit goes in. They score a touchdown. I mean, it's just week after week, they just can't seem to get their stuff together. Just can't get – it's just so bad. It's one of the worst. And you got to remember, Matt Nagy, he won Coach of the Year a couple years back, and we actually bet him at 20-1, and we cashed that ticket. And for things to spiral out of control like they have over the last 2 years, it's just mind-boggling.
Absolutely amazing. And we're back with the Philly Godfather with another. We had 2 NFL picks there, another big NFL pick coming up at the end of the show before our special guest. But let's go to another special guest who isn't with us every single week, but we're glad when he is, and that is the 8-Ball. Mr. 8-Ball, how you doing? What do you got for us?
Doing great. We're about 2 weeks away from the start of the NBA season, and we have our first move locked in. We're going with the Phoenix Suns, pick them at home against the Dallas Mavericks. They didn't make the playoffs last year, but they were arguably one of the most improved teams in the league. I think when they got to the bubble, they won 8 straight and just missed the playoffs by half a game or so. So you take a look at their starting lineup. They have Devin Booker. They added Chris Paul. And I think the most important piece of that team is DeAndre Ayton. I think he's going to flourish and take his game to the next level with Chris Paul there, getting him easy opportunities, getting him in the lane, alley-oops. The same thing he did in Houston, the same thing he did in OKC and with Blake Griffin. So this Dallas team, they were awesome last year. They're going to be missing Porzingis until January, I think. So that's a piece missing. They're on the road, first game of the year. I think the Suns are a playoff team, and I think they're undervalued at home here. I'm going with the Phoenix Suns to win the game at a pick 'em.
I agree. I mean, we bet on the Suns too. First game of the year. The Porzingis news is big, and we really think this Phoenix team is very improved.
You feel like
you bet it now. Not to interrupt you guys. I think you guys should bet it now because that line's going to keep moving. Especially, I mean, everyone saw the Mavericks, how great they played in the playoffs. I think that line's going to keep moving.
I don't know if you I think you Philly guys just like betting against Dallas is what I think you like. I think that's what
Cowgirls.
We're having a little bit of problems this year with our sports, in case you didn't notice.
A little.
8-Ball, let me ask you a follow-up question because you were killed the NBA last year. The depth of the playoff run that, say, LeBron James had, who's not a young guy anymore. He is Superman, and he is ageless, it appears. How does that affect your futures that you're looking at as far as the NBA? Does it affect, do you think, these guys who had deep playoff runs and the short offseason?
Well, I think for Anthony Davis and LeBron James, they're not going to give them too many minutes early on. I think you'll see their minutes increase as the year goes on. But for them, it's more about getting chemistry and then getting the team right for the playoffs. So I think it's been 60 days since the season ended. So it's not really any rest compared to normal season. So I think early on, you'll see them resting. And I think you'll see other teams covering against the Lakers early on due to that.
Well, Matt, let's go to some back to NFL. Mr. Matt Maltepes of the College Kids. I understand you have something in the NFC least, which is where my Cowboys are and your Eagles
My Eagles
right now. So talk to me about the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh man, what a ride it's been, right? All right, so we have Jalen Hurts coming in at quarterback. Carson Wentz getting benched. Now we have a new quarterback in, and the Saints also have a new quarterback in with Taysom Hill when Drew Brees had his ribs hurt. And we're looking at this game, and we're looking at Taysom Hill with the couple games he's played. First game he plays against Atlanta Falcons, I think he put up 17 points, and that was in perfect conditions against one of the worst defenses in the league in the Atlanta Falcons. That was a one-score game, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Next game, he versus the QB-less Broncos team where all of their players at quarterback got listed with COVID. They're out. So they had actually a skill player playing quarterback that was coming off the practice squad, which they couldn't do anything. I think he had one completion the whole game, which is absurd. And so they get an easy game there. And then you go to the next game against the Falcons again, second matchup in a dome, perfect conditions. Taysom Hill only put up 21 points. Now he's coming in, he's versing in the Eagles defense, this number 2 in sack percentage, top 10 in opponent yards per pass attempt, and slightly above average run defense and opponent yards per rush attempt. So I think he's going to have some trouble here, and that Saints offense is going to have a hard time moving the ball. If they had a hard time scoring on the Falcons, I think they're going to have a hard time scoring on the Eagles here. The same defense that held Russell Wilson, I think, to 20 points almost, give or take, a little bit less. So this is going to be a tough game for the Saints offense, and the Eagles offense isn't anything to, be hype about. This Eagles team, their offense has been decimated with injuries on the offensive line. Now you add a new quarterback in. I love the under here, 45. That's what we bet. And I think the dog here has a shot to cover. Although it's not my favorite play of the week, I actually like the under more, but I think the Eagles have a shot to cover if they can force Taysom Hill to turn over the ball. And Jalen Hurts has to take over the ball as well. But I think they have a shot.
What do you do with Carson Wentz? What do you do with him long term? You're
So
paying this guy a fortune.
You're paying him a fortune, but you also drafted Jalen Hurts for a reason. Howie's real good with the cap. He's always been good with the money. His problem sometimes is drafting players. But if Carson Wentz is on his way out, as many people are talking about, there's a lot of rumors. One place I think that he might just go is to the Indianapolis Colts with his former coach, Frank Reich. And I think it's a perfect situation for him to get back on his feet and get going because the dude has talent. We all know that. He had an MVP season, and then he had a couple years where it wasn't so bad, but he's dealing with injuries, dealing with all these different things, dealing with injuries to the offensive line, receivers, all these different things. Then finally this year he gets benched for Jalen Hurts. But if you put him in the right situation, get his mindset right, I think this Colts team, they can have a serious upgrade at quarterback with Philip Rivers leaving probably most likely. And if they bring in Carson Wentz, they can be dangerous if they can get him playing to the optimum level in which he was in that MVP year.
Yeah, to interject, I mean, even if you keep him around, you got to sit him because that offensive line is so bad, so horrible. He's been sacked more than any other quarterback in the league. You bench him just to keep him healthy for next year. And you know what? It's a win-win because if Jalen Hurts goes out there and kills it and destroys the NFL, well, then you got options at the end of the year. But if he doesn't, then you know what you got in Hurts. You protect Wentz for next year, his health. And, I think it's a win-win if you bench Wentz and you let this kid play. And you never know what happens, man. Jalen Hurts has been a winner in college football. He played against some of the best defenses in football in the SEC. At Oklahoma, he shined. This kid's always been a winner, so you never know what can happen. He can beat you with his legs. Now let's see if he can beat you with his arm and he can read those NFL defenses.
The way I see it is Howie's a big guy on the cap, and he knows that Wentz has a big contract, and he has Jalen Hurts on a rookie contract, and he drafted him in the second round. The way I see it is I think Carson Wentz might just be gone, and by getting rid of him, you're going to have a lot of money open up, and with that money, he'll be able to spend it on other positions, and he has a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract, and which is big for the team.
Yeah, it's huge. You actually got Jalen Hurts making less per season than Carson Wentz is making per game right now. It's insane.
I think Hurts makes what, 80 a year, and Wentz makes more than that.
In the 800 range. Yeah, that's right. Which Wentz makes more than that per game. Hey, I want to go to Joey Oddessa, obviously with our UFC. Joey Oddessa, by the way, 4-0 last week with our wise old tree. He would have been 5-0, but one fight was canceled. But Philly Godfather, I want to ask you right quick, back with the NFC East. This past week, the Washington football team, you put out on Twitter to bet those guys on the money line. It's one of the reasons you need to follow Philly Godfather on Twitter. It's one of the reasons you need to follow the action on Twitter. What did you see in that game? They're giving up 10 points when the line first opened up. What did you see in that game that you thought Washington might win that game?
Well, you had some real cold weather. You got two solid defensive teams. Pittsburgh was missing one of their edge rushers. And Washington, if you go through the box scores, the games that they've lost since Alex Smith came back is the games that they've lost a turnover battle win. So as long as they didn't lose that turnover battle, I thought they could stay within that game. And Pittsburgh has always, this season, looks like they've played down to their competition. And even though they were undefeated, everyone's supposed to be due to lose. And I don't believe in that stuff. I just thought it was a perfect matchup for this week. When I handicap games, I'm not a big trends guy. I just looked at what was happening this week with both teams. And I thought the Redskins had a great shot. The Redskins, as of right now, they got a great shot to win the division as well. So this is a team that they keep getting better. They got one of the best pass rushes in football. And anytime you get to the opposing team's quarterback, you can create problems, you can create turnovers. And I think it was just a bad spot for Pittsburgh.
It's one of the reasons that we're the fastest growing show in the world right now, because of analysis and predictions like that. And you need to follow us on Twitter, follow the Philly Godfather on Twitter, and all these guys, and especially the birthday boy, Mr. Joey Oddessa, Mr. Joey Bagels, Bagelicious. It's bagel time. Happy birthday, Joey.
Thank you, JBL. Thank you, guys.
And you got the UFC back in the Apex in Vegas this week. You've been killing it, my brother. What do you got this week?
Saturday night, December 12th, UFC 256, 7th event at the Apex since they returned from Dubai on Halloween. And main event, quickest turnaround in pretty much mixed martial arts champion history. I think any organization. Dayson Figueiredo is coming back and he's fighting Brandon Moreno from Mexico. We got a Mexican-speaking guy, well, Spanish-speaking guy.
Is he Argentina, Mexico? Wait, what?
Yeah. Spanish-speaking against Portuguese.
Is Mexico a language?
Mexico is not a language, and Brazilians speak Portuguese. Just to clear the air here. Okay, Figueiredo. Look, they've been betting against this. This Figueiredo is 20-1. Now I'm gonna compare Figueiredo, and you're gonna say, wow, this is crazy, with John Jones, and this is why. And I'm gonna compare him to Khabib, and this is why. All three were champs, okay? But this is what I think about Figueiredo. Figueiredo and Khabib and Jones, they all started off in the UFC as underdogs. Heck, Khabib was an underdog against Tabao. It was an underdog, I think, against Shalaris in his first couple bouts. And before people started saying, wow, this kid has got something special. Look, Figueiredo twice just demolished Joe Benavidez. And I look at this division and I'm like, wow, I can't believe that, earlier I was on and we were talking about Moreno, off the air, we were talking about him and you're like, who? And that's what this bout is. 18-5, Brendan Moreno in the right spot. Look, I guess he's the number 2 ranked guy at the weight, but Dayson Figueiredo is a real deal. He had a hiccup against Formiga a while back. He lost all 3 rounds in that fight. His only loss on his record, another Brazilian. Sometimes when Brazilians fight Brazilians, you get unexpected results. I mean, I don't know what it's attributed to. Maybe they put too much pressure on themselves, both being from the same country, carrying the torch for them. I don't know. But he lost to Formiga. Now, Moreno's got a win over Formiga. So you'd say, well, A beats B beats C. Not going to happen. Figueiredo's about a 3-1 favorite here. And I'll go, you know what? I think he'll be the first guy to finish Brendan Moreno. I don't like cornering yourself in with props and things like that, but I don't think that this bout goes 5 rounds. I think that Dayson Figueiredo, I think he can sub him. I think he's looked really good. Quick turnaround, 21 days. I don't think he would have taken this fight. Like I said last week with a couple guys, with Vittoria, I said I didn't think he would take this fight if he didn't think he could beat it. If he didn't think he could win it. I think Figueiredo's got a just exuding confidence. I mean, he talked all that trash to Joe B. Anyway, Figueiredo gets it done here Saturday night. Now, I just used all that. Would I just spend like 2 minutes on Figueiredo? I'm going to tell you about this main card. Well, this whole card, I'm looking, there's a lot of overs here. Ferguson and Oliveira. Ferguson lost every round against Gaethje. Okay, he was coming in against Gaethje. People were like, "Wow, Ferguson's going to beat Khabib" and things like that. They were delusional. I think my personal opinion is that Ferguson overtrains. Okay, now whether that's true or not, only Ferguson knows that. I think he was overtrained for Gaethje, and he got his butt kicked. Then against Oliveira, who, and here we go. We can't go an episode without bringing him up. He's won 7 straight since his loss in 2017 to who? Anybody? Paul, the Irish Dragon Felder. Okay. Oliveira is in against Tony Ferguson. I think the bout goes over. I like Ferguson. He's $1.65. Not in love with Ferguson here, but I think Ferguson is good enough to beat him. Durable enough to last. I think this fight goes the distance. Okay. We could go down the whole. I mean, we might as well just go all the way down. Kevin Holland. I mean, this card, you talk about a card getting shuffled. Holland was in. Holland was supposed to be in again on last week's card, got COVID. Vittori stepped in, beat, won his bout against Hermanson. I think that Kevin Holland's here against Jacare Souza. It's back to the normal matchup. Well, Jacare just has not looked good, man. He's what has he lost? Jacare has lost 5 of his last. He's lost 3 in a row. Against Blachowicz. He lost to Rosenstruck. Excuse me. That's those saying. Excuse me. Wow. Talk about this is what happens when you got pages with just tons of when I try to read instead of just going from the gut. Anyway, Jacare.
I think anytime when you bring up that name, Paul Felder, it throws you off a little.
That's what happens.
Keep that name off the podcast.
Yeah, you were doing great until that name came up.
I get rattled. Jacare lost 2 of his last 3 of his last 4. Okay, now I got it going here. It's Junior Dos Santos It was another guy that's been around forever that, you know, he's on the back end of his career too, along with Souza. But he's fighting Cyril Gane, JDS. I know I'm all over the board right now. That Cyril Gane against JDS number is too high, -400, but it will go over 1.5. Both guys durable. I think it'll go over 1.5. Jacare and Holland, I like the over there too. You know, I think Holland wins that fight. Holland opened a favorite. It went down to pick him. I think it's probably a decent number at pick him. He's supposed to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt now. I like Kevin Holland there. And, I mean, we could just finish the card. It's up to you, JBL.
No.
Keep firing, baby. Keep firing.
Keep firing. And don't forget, we got the UFC show on Saturday to join us 1 hour before the UFC prelims.
Well, we got Sergey Spivak on this card too, but we're not going to talk about him because he's going to stink it up. I'm not a fan of these heavyweights. Shout out to Gabe Morency. You know, your man. Look, my man Valenti got beat last week. I mean, it was like a loser leave town bout. He got beat. He got beat by a guy that put an entire body on his body. You know what I mean? But hindsight's always 100. You know, like some of us used to say, we don't look in the rearview mirror except when we look in the rearview mirror, and that's it.
Hey, what a ton of value! You hit it out of the park on your birthday, Mr. Bagels. You killed it. I love it.
Sweating tequila.
You know what I saw my rearview mirror today driving my Bentley? It was Coach.
It was hitchhiking, right?
We still got the main event. We've got so much value today, but we got the Philly Godfather himself. I understand you got us one big NFL game to wrap up before we have our special guest. What do you got for us in the NFL?
Yeah, let's go to Monday Night Football, prime time. I think it's revenge time for Baker and the boys. Baltimore at 7-5. Looks like they got the groove back last week, beating up on a real bad Cowboys team. I think
hey.
What they win by 17 points, John? I mean,
grief. Glad it wasn't 50.
But we all got to be honest. This Cowboys team stinks.
Horrible.
And the run defense, it stinks even worse this year than last year. I think Dallas is ranked in the basement of the NFL in the opponent yards per play metric. And I think they're also dead last in the opponent yards per rush attempt. So you knew Lamar Jackson was going to kill him with his legs. I think he almost had 100 yards rushing. So, I mean, the double-digit blowout was expected for Baltimore. But alarmingly, if you look at the box score versus the Cowgirls, and I don't want to offend you, John, but that's how they're playing this year. There's a couple things in there that to me, I'm looking to fade the Ravens this week as 1-point favorites versus the Browns in Cleveland. I mean, Dallas had 10 more first downs than Baltimore and only 13 less total yards in the game. I mean, how is that possible with how bad the Cowboys are? And Dallas actually won the time possession battle by like 5 minutes. So I fully expect this Baltimore offense that ranks 15 spots better than the Cowboys this year in the yards per play metric to be able to move the ball on this Baltimore defense this week at home, where Kevin Stefanski's team is 5-1 straight up. And they played real tough at home this year. Now, I know why the odds makers made the Ravens a 1-point favorite. I mean, Baltimore does have a plus 85-point differential on the year, and they're fighting for that last playoff spot with the Raiders. And if you remember, Lamar Jackson did smoke Baker Mayfield and his crew first week of the season. I think the score was 38-6. But if you go back in that game and you break it down, I mean, the Browns were missing 3 starters in their secondary. Their offensive tackle left the game all banged up early, and Cleveland basically imploded and handed the Ravens that victory, that win. I mean, the Browns had 3 turnovers, missed a 2-point conversion. And if you remember, they called the stupidest fake punt in the history of the NFL. I mean, it was nuts, John. They also had 8 penalties for over 80 yards in that game. And I'm pretty sure they missed 2 field goals as well, as I said. But I was a little worried because you see a team like the Ravens, they're 7-5. They got a plus 85-point differential. And it looks very impressive for a 7-5 squad. But if you remember, most of that differential came in the first 5 games of the season. I think 73 points of it actually did in the first 5 games. And ever since then, they've seen them regressed. And the reality is Baltimore's only beat 2 teams with a winning record all year. It was game 1 versus the Browns when they imploded. And they beat the Colts in week 8. And the Colts actually had 73 more total yards, had more first downs, averaged a 4 yard more per play, had more rushing yards. But again, they lost the turnover battle. And as we all know, when you lose the turnover battle, it's pretty hard to win the game or cover the spread. bottom line here is, as long as the Browns don't lose the turnover battle here, I think they smoked the Ravens. I think they win this game easily. Cleveland has won the turnover battle in 8 of their 9 wins this season. So, like I said, as long as Baker doesn't throw some bonehead interceptions, I think Cleveland wins this game easily. I bet the Browns +1. I think it's the right side. I'm going with the Red Hot Browns, who've won 4 in a row. I like Cleveland here.
Baker Mayfield, who has as many wins as he has commercials right now. You can't knock that right. Commercials are great, by the way.
If you guys remember, we gave them to you at the beginning of the year, over 8 wins, +140 to make the playoffs, and we took a flyer at +800 to win the division, and they're sitting in second place. Yep. So all the guys that laughed at us in the beginning of the year when we said they had a chance to win the division, it's not so funny anymore.
No, it's not. Well, there you have it. There is Follow the Action. We got a special guest coming up next, but I want to thank you for joining us. And don't forget this Saturday, if you're watching this before Saturday afternoon, 1 hour before the UFC prelims, we'll be on with the entire UFC show from Mr. Joey Oddessa, the birthday boy, best combat sports handicapper in the world for the college kids. Matt Maltepes for the Philly Godfather, Mr. Steve Maltepes, the legend himself. And special guest today, Mr. 8-Ball, thank you for joining us. It's always good to see you, my friend. That is Follow the Action. But hold on. We got something special coming up next. And we are not done here on Follow the Action. We have been trying to get this sports betting legend, a giant of the industry, to come on the show for quite some time. We finally have him, the Philly Rooster. He is here with us, the legend himself. Rooster, how you doing?
Good, John. Glad to finally be on. I know Philly Godfather's been trying to get me on here for a while. I've been looking forward to it. And I saw a game here Thursday night that I just had to give out. I had to release, and I wanted to talk about it real quick.
Yeah, he's been too busy counting all that money, John, that he's winning during college basketball so far.
He's absolutely killing it in college basketball. I follow him. I subscribe to his service. He's killing it. What do you got for us on Thursday night?
Well, Thursday night, I love this game. It's the Patriots at the Rams. When you talk about short weeks, it's all about coaching. And Bill Belichick right now, he's got a scheme with this Cam Newton that's absolutely amazing. We all saw it last week. Some short money came in on the Rams early. There was actually some threes out on this game at opening. When you look on sites, they'll say the opening line was actually 6. It wasn't. Some sharp money came in on the Rams, creeped it up to 6, and then bang. Real sharp guys came in and hit +6 on this game. But I think the Patriots have a real chance at winning this game. So we went out, we took the money line +210 on the Patriots. Real good chance. Coaching battle on a Thursday night. We like the Patriots to win the game.
Do you agree with what happened with Cam Newton? I mean, all the hype that came in about Cam, that he was going to be everything. He was going to replace Tom Brady, and it hasn't worked out that well. What's your thoughts on Cam Newton?
I never thought that. This guy, he never won a big game. He's not a playoff quarterback. He's kind of a stopgap. But when Bill Belichick gets his system playing, and when he can put these schemes in, he's similar to Andy Reid when you're talking about schemes on offense, where everybody knows exactly where to be. Cam Newton's actually perfect for that system. And he's coming into his own now. And I think he realizes he's not going to be, a huge passer. And he's going to take his shots. He's still athletic as hell, and he's a tank. And I think he's settling into his system right now. Now, look, they're not going to make a run. They can't. There's just too much competition. But spots like this, where it's a coaching situation, Belichick, has a distinct advantage, and Cam Newton is filling out his purpose.
Yeah, and in the red zone, Cam's one of the best quarterbacks in the red zone. I mean, he's so big and so strong. And if you get anywhere close to that goal line, he's going to push it in. So it's a big advantage. If they can get between the 20s and get inside that red zone, this Patriots team is very dangerous.
Rooster, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you are the sports betting legend. We've been trying to get you on forever. You're kind of like the Loch Ness Monster. We weren't sure you existed. you're like this mythology creature. But we've got you here. I want to ask you a little bit of non sequitur about coaches. They talk about Vrabel being such the next Belichick of the Tennessee Titans. What's your thoughts on Vrabel? Is he that good?
I'm not sold yet, to be honest with you. I mean, when you look at the great coaches and the amount of time and effort they put in, And this is going to sound crazy, but whenever I see a coach that's in good physical condition, takes care of himself, and gets haircuts, I get nervous, honestly, because when you look at Andy Reid and you look at Bill Belichick and you look at the great coaches, even John Gruden's starting to look a little rough. I mean, that's a crazy thing to base it on, but I'm not sold on Vrabel yet. You have to show me that you're willing to be there 8 days a week, 26 hours a day in order to get this job done. And that's what the great coaches do. I mean, Andy Reid, I'm very familiar with him. He was in Philly for a long time. The guy is tireless and doesn't take care of himself at all, but he knows everything that's going to happen, especially on the offense in the game. And I'm not convinced on Vrabel yet.
The contrarian indicator. The indicator.
I always have a little angle. The Godfather will tell you.
It's true. Yo, the stuff he comes up with, and he's right a lot more times than he's wrong. And I just sit there and I learned a lot from him. I mean, he taught me everything I know. He brought me into this business over 30 years ago. And there's one thing I learned is you never bet against a rooster.
He brings a sharp human element to it. I mean, how
One
does a
thing-
computer,
Go ahead, Joey.
those intangibles, a sharp human element he brings to the table. You know, I don't care how many computers you line up. Give me that guy that's got that gut instinct based off that experience. I'll take him all day over the computer.
The one thing I learned was you got to follow Rooster's hotline, man. He's always he's always hot.
The Roosters Hotline. That is the Twitter handle. We will give it all out here. And but we have the legend on, Philly Godfather. Thank you for bringing on the Philadelphia Rooster. And Mr. Rooster, thank you for coming on. We greatly appreciate it.
Anytime, guys. Had a great time.
There you have it, Coach. There you have it, guys. That is Follow the Action. Thank you for joining us. That's an edit point right there, Mike. I'm telling you, man. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. We'll see you this Saturday on our UFC special.